The Shoresh Zayin Chaf Reish, as connected to the word Zichron Truah, is located as a verb command in 5 locations throughout the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. In Shmot 13:3, we are obligated to remember the Yetziat Mitzrayim. In 28, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. In 32, Moshe demands of God following the Egel to remember the promises made to Avraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov. In Devarim 24:9, Moshe reminds the nation to remember what has happened to Miriam when she spoke Lashon Hara against her brother Moshe. And finally, 25:7, we have the command to remember what Amalek did shortly after the departure from Egypt. All the translators are relatively unanimous in their translation for the term Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, which is rendered as remember the Shabbat to sanctify it. Grammatically, however, this translation is not quite accurate. Remember, in this context, is a command, and as such, the voweling should have been Zachor, as in Shemot 32:13, when Moshe demands from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Zachor li Avraham, li Yitzchak, li Yisrael avatecha. Remember the promises that were made to your servants Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov regarding their descendants. And hence, the plan to annihilate the nation on account of the Egel would be in violation of that covenantal agreement. In actuality, the voweling of this word is not Zachor, but Zachor. Rashi, in his commentary to this pasuk, writes, Zachor l'shon pa'ol hu, that the word is a pa'ol word, and in a footnote to Art Scroll's translation to this Rashi, that pa'ol is a verb form that denotes ongoing activity, not a command, as in Zachor, but to be more precise, would be remembering of the day of Shabbat. Of course, the translators would have found this to be quite awkward, and therefore they opted for the more fluent remember the day of Shabbat. Rashi then goes on to write, V'chein pitrono, this is to be the understanding of this statement, Tenu lev, set your heart, lizkor tamid et yom HaShabbat, to continually remember the day of Shabbat. She'im nizdamen lecha chefetz yafeh, so that if during the week you come across, for example, a beautiful object, tehei mazmino l'Shabbat, set that object aside to be used on the day of Shabbat. And in this way, you will Zachor, will constantly keep in mind at Yom HaShabbat, doing things during the week, l'kadsho, to sanctify it. What we see from Rashi is that of the 2 options that we have for the Zayin Chaf Reish Shoresh, 1. Remember an activity of the mind, or 2. A real-world application. Rashi, in the case of Shemot 28, opts for the mental activity of Tenu Lev, to set one's heart, one's intention, to remember the Shabbat that will come at the end of the work week. And this brings us to question 2, regarding Rashi's commentary to the Zichron Truah of Rosh Hashanah, namely, that it is reflected in the verbalization of Pesukei Zichronot and Pesukei Shofrot. Given the fact that the default for Zayin Chaf Reish is the requirement to have a mental mindset, Eitnu Lev, and therefore one may ask, why does he opt for defining Zichron Truah as Zichron, the recitation of Pesukei Zichronot or Pesukei Shofrot?